You are now listening to the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.
Welcome to They Live by Film, a podcast that loves unfettered creativity. No, that's not right. Loves radiance film. No, that's not right either. Something about something about interviews and stuff from around the world. Hi, Happy New Year. It's Adam Lundy here with Zach Bryant and Chris Haskell.
Yeah,
Hello,
happy
Happy
New
New
gentlemen.
Year.
How are we? It's been so long, I forgot our intro.
Oh, how long has it been since we recorded? What was the last thing we did?
Oh, it was like a month ago.
Yeah.
It was
It was the
Orson
it
Welles
was the
stuff.
Ah,
yeah.
yeah, I forgot. Yeah, that has been a while.
The end of December, like the last 2 weeks of December, is the longest time period in recorded history. Um,
Okay.
oh, it's starting to snow outside. That's weird. Okay.
Not in Texas. Although we actually do have a cold front coming in, and it's gonna be below freezing starting tomorrow night. So we'll see. There's a
Oh God,
chance
I've seen
for
this happen before. I've seen this game.
yeah, I know exactly.
We're,
But
we're,
Happy New Year, y'all.
I remember we had this discussion last time there was a cold front, and we discovered that Texas is just as inept of dealing with snow as Ireland is. Like yesterday, every day I hate humanity more. They just like just general day-to-day people just anger and annoy me. Like I went out to the shops yesterday just to pick up a few things I needed. I just needed to get a few little things. And we had a weather warning that there was going to be potentially snow, potentially ice overnight, but not in my part of the country, not in my county. We didn't have a warning for any of that. So there was like stuff going around on social media of people like going to supermarkets stocking up on bread and beans and stuff for like a 1 day warning, by the way. This is like it's just total just nonsense. But then I go
Gotta
to
get
my
your milk
store,
sandwiches, man. Milk
but
sandwiches.
I went to my store and like reminder, we had no warning in place. Like our we were supposed to be so normal and the shop has never been busier. All the bread was gone, all the milk was gone, all the meat was gone. You'd swear that there was like a fucking nuclear apocalypse happening. Like it was batshit insane. And then I went to the store today to do like my normal like weekly shopping, and it was empty. It was great, and everything was restocked. I just walked around, just got everything and I said to Neve, I was like, "Why are people just so nuts?" Um,
You
but
know, there's
yeah,
Yeah, I was gonna say, they always talk about like this collective trauma thing. I've heard it a bunch in the U.S. when it comes to like planes going near buildings and stuff like that. I think that's like a trauma, even worse of a trauma response with like COVID and stuff. People hear of anything that could shorten stock, and they're like, "We must destroy it.
it's
Every bit of stock we have left, it must be gone."
it just becomes so wasteful though. Like I was seeing stuff about like people buying like multiple loaves of bread and stuff. Like that's just all gonna get thrown out. It's just so
Yeah, I don't
wasteful.
even finish one loaf of bread.
Yeah, same. Like Neve refuses to eat like a loaf of bread even if it's like the day before the best buy date. So like if bread is going off tomorrow, she won't eat it today. So
Well,
like
damn,
we
I'm the
throw out so
opposite. I'm
much
like, yeah,
bread.
it's only a day old.
Oh yeah, I'm the same, like I don't mind. I'll eat it on the day. I probably wouldn't eat it a day old, but I'd eat it on the day. But no, we throw out so much bread because Neve refuses to eat it if it's the day
Wait,
before.
seriously, just freeze it.
No, I hate that.
No, just freeze it
Ruins
and
the
then
bread.
make a toast out of it.
No, I hate that.
Hey,
I
what?
do I do have a
I
question.
hate frozen stuff in general.
What?
I hate defrosted stuff. I
That's
very
fair. I
rarely
kind of
have
get
frozen
that one.
food.
No. Frozen bread tastes good from the toaster. It's
No,
fine.
no, thank you, sir.
No,
I
no,
do have a question for you guys, 'cause I was curious. Do you guys have best of dates on your milk?
Yeah,
Because that's not. So you do in Ireland. What about you in Texas, Chris?
yeah, of course.
A lot of places in the U.S. do not require a best of date on milk because it's easy to tell when milk goes bad.
Oh, gross.
Yeah, like and actual places that do a lot with dairy, like you look at Wisconsin and stuff. I think it's Wisconsin that does not require a best of date.
No, people are way too stupid for that. You gotta put a date on
Darwinism, man, Darwinism.
it.
people are like,
If they
oh,
want to drink,
geez.
they'll spit it out as soon as they drink it, so it's fine.
Yeah,
So
I
yeah,
guess
but
so.
some idiot though will be like, oh, I thought this was milk. Maybe it's yogurt after all.
Just
Oh,
make farmer's cheese. It's not hard.
God, the idea of like swallowing gross, like
Yeah.
expired milk is worse than any movie we've ever seen.
There are people who probably like listen to
Oh,
this for breakfast, and we are just like straight up ruining their breakfast.
sorry,
Oh
everybody.
well. Oh well. We're strictly a dinner time listening podcast. I'm sorry.
Of
Uh,
course.
right. I suppose it's been, as I said, it's been a few weeks. So, before we get into our feature presentations, I'm sure we all watched stuff over the holidays. I didn't actually watch that much. I'm just going to kind of get mine out of the way. Um, Immediately after we recorded the last episode, I watched a few Italian horror films. I watched Demons, the Lamberto Bava film, which I thought was dope. It was like Evil
Oh yeah.
Dead, but in a theater.
Oh yeah.
That was a good time. I had fun with that. I watched two Fulci films. I watched The Beyond and I watched City of the Living Dead. I didn't like them that much. Like I, they're very vibey and the effects are obviously really good, but like I think the lack of actual coherent story kind of makes me not enjoy them that much.
I feel like you
They're
got to go to his Jallo, ironically, to have like somewhat coherent plots.
I'm just trying to
That's just
remember what
somewhat.
I've
Like there's still you
seen.
still kind of get lost in them.
I've seen a few Fulci. Let me see if I've seen any. Well, I saw, yeah, of course I've seen Don't Torture a Duckling.
And then New York Ripper.
No, I haven't seen that one. That's the only I've only seen three. Don't Torture a Duckling and then the two I mentioned. Those are the only three
Okay.
that I've seen. I want to watch Lizard in a Woman's Skin, but it's hard to track down here, unfortunately. So I'm
Didn't Arrow
hoping.
do that one? I feel like Arrow released that one at some point.
Yeah, I think
Did they?
so.
Maybe not. Maybe I'll need to look into it deeper. Then it wasn't streaming anywhere. Anyway, I didn't look for physical
Yeah.
copies, but I couldn't find it streaming anywhere. Anyway.
Yeah, I think it
Uh,
was one of the old window box arrows, if anybody actually remembers those.
all right. Okay. Well, maybe I'll need to look a little bit deeper then. What else? I caught up on a couple of 2024 films. I finally watched Anora, which is probably my favorite film of 2024. The Sean Baker film with Mikey Madison. Really fun time. It's really great dramedy. There's so much like funny moments in it. I was kind of worried the film would be like super horny, but like it's funny the way Sean Baker does all the kind of sex scenes. They're all just kind of because all the sex in the movie is like transactionary, like there's no actual like romance behind any of it. All the scenes just come off as like super cringe and funny. So that was good. But Mikey Madison was great. She killed it. I wouldn't be surprised if she wins the Oscar. She was fantastic. I watched Wicked, which was fine. I have no ill will towards Wicked. I thought it was fine. The two leads were pretty good. The songs were pretty. I'm not right. I wasn't really familiar with the musical or anything. Like I'd never seen any productions of it or anything, so I didn't really know any of the songs. But I thought they were fine. Yeah, Wicked was fine. I watched a new documentary, well, mockumentary. Are you guys familiar with the character Philomena Kunk? I don't know if she's made her way over to your side
She's
of the
getting
pond.
so popular right now. She's
I have no idea who that is.
Oh, okay. So you might not dig it because obviously it's comedy, but so Philomena Kunk is a character created by Diane Morgan and Charlie Brooker, who's probably best known for making Black Mirror. Um, and basically, she's a fake documentarian, and she does documentaries on religion and life and society, and she'll meet with all these experts, lecturers from Cambridge and stuff, and she'll just ask the most stupid questions. It's. I think she's so fucking funny.
Sounds like
Um,
Borat.
yeah.
it's very similar vibe. It's honestly very similar vibe to Borat. But it's not like she's stupid. She just asks just silly questions. And she'll do a lot of great wordplay. And sometimes she'll ask a question that's so silly, but also kind of profound. And the professors or whoever she's doing the interview with will be like, "Well, actually, you make a great point," and she'll go, "What? What do you mean I made a great point?" Uh, so it's very funny. I don't know where if it's available to stream. It's obviously it's on the BBC here, so I don't really know if it's available to stream in North America. It might be on like Netflix or something. But yeah, the newest one was Kunk on Life, which it kind of covers a lot of different things from the scientific theory of the way the universe started to religion to life and death and all this shit. So, but it's very, very funny. I was laughing the whole way through. And then the last 2024 film was one that I saw on Friday, which I saw Nosferatu, which obviously ties into what we're going to talk about today. Um, I like Nosferatu a lot. I don't love it as much as Zach will, so Zach, I'm sure, is going to tell us how much he loves it. I don't love it because I do have some issues with it, but it's really good. It's a good film, and it's a really good horror film. I forgot like how good of a horror director Eggers is. Like, there's a lot of like just like modern horror stuff, like jump scares that are done like really well. So it is a really great horror film.
That
Um,
first one, I won't spoil it in case
yeah,
anyone has seen it. That first one got me. And the
I
second
wasn't
one
expecting it.
didn't get me, but the first one did.
Yeah, for sure. I wasn't expecting because I just wasn't expecting that kind of a horror film. So yeah, the first one got me as well. It's very good. The only other thing of note that I watched would be I watched a giallo which has a great title. It's called Your Vice is a Locked Room and Only I Have the Key.
Oh,
Uh,
beautiful Martino.
yeah, Sergio Martino film.
That always seems like a joke of who can make the longest title
Yeah,
Hmm.
without it getting absurd.
pretty much. But this film was it's trippy and cool. It's not like it's a bit like in terms of giallo, it's a bit low on the murder side.
Mm.
It's much more kind of dissection on a weird menage a trois kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Love triangle, with these weird flawed characters. But it has this cool murder plot underneath. Obviously it's Sergio Martino, so it's full of tits as well. Because of course it is. But yeah, I thought that was good. I had a good time watching it. Yeah, that's pretty much everything that I've kind of been watching in the last few weeks, apart
I
from
did
like
want to
fucking
note,
Gremlins.
oh, Gremlins. But
Yum,
I did want to
yum.
note for anyone listening, Kunk on Life in the US is available on Netflix.
Awesome. Please watch it. Please watch it. It's so fucking funny. I can't
She's
understand how funny it is.
she was pretty good as the boss in the IT crowd. Not Kunk, but the
No,
actress.
that's not her. That's not her, brother. You're not the first person to make that mistake, though. Diane Morgan is not in the IT grid.
No, she looks. I mean, I haven't
She
seen.
does look like her. She does look like her, but that's not her.
Hold on.
Dude, the IT crowd is one of my all-time favorite shows, I can promise you.
Oh, Catherine Parkinson. Okay, yeah, they
They
just
do
look
look
similar.
similar. They do look similar, and they have a very similar cadence and
Yeah,
kind of tone of
exactly.
their voice. Their voices are very similar as well. You're
It's
not the
like an
first person
Amy.
to say that.
It's like there's five women in Hollywood that look like Amy Adams.
I was making fun of my girlfriend the other day, and I wish I could remember which movie it is. We were talking, it might have been Jumper. And there's always this weird thing that I'll never understand of how people like mix up Samuel Jackson and Lawrence Fishburne. And there was like a whole interview where that happened, where the interviewer thought he had like a new Super Bowl commercial to Samuel Jackson, and it would turn out it was Lawrence Fishburne. And I just always remember that. My girlfriend was trying to remember this movie Jumper, and when she was talking about people that were in it, because I think Kristen Stewart's in the movie, and she's like, and I think Samuel Jackson's in it, and I just bust out laughing
Samuel
because
Jackson
it's
is in it.
no, I'm sorry, Lawrence Fish. She said Lawrence Fishburne, and it's
Okay.
Samuel Jackson. I haven't seen the movie, so I don't I can mix it up because I haven't seen it.
You've never seen 2008 masterpiece starring Hayden Christensen, Jumper.
I have not, unfortunately. We
Ah,
need to do it for the
dude.
podcast, obviously.
Dude, you need to watch this. It's just pure nonsense. It's
I do
great.
love pure nonsense.
And yeah, and Kristen Stewart, I'm pretty sure is not in it. Oh no, wait, I'm looking at the cast. She is.
Yeah, I think it's
Uh,
when she was still fair. Well, this was right when Twilight happened. So it was like right before
yeah,
Twilight.
but it was like before. It wasn't like part of her breakout though.
Oh, she's in Afterlife.
Who else was in it? Oh yeah, Rachel Bilson. Yeah,
Yeah, I remember when she was talking about it. I was like, oh, it has a good cast. And then she said the wrong one, and I just thought it was hilarious.
it does have a good cast. I also didn't know the cast was good when I watched it because I haven't seen it since
It was
2008, naturally. But
ironically a Hayden Christensen vehicle, I guess.
well, yeah, it was like they were trying to make him happen still. Because remember, he did that film with that film with Jessica Alba around a similar time as well. Um, it's not The Eye; it's a similar one though.
Just
he
gotta
was. I
I don't
remember
know
he
that.
was perfect as a really
Awake.
like. I don't remember that one, but he was perfect as a really like moody teen in Life as a House. Did y'all ever see that?
No, I don't. I'm not even
no.
familiar with it.
It's a super sappy, sentimental movie about how a family gets restored as they rebuild a house together. But he's like this moody teen, basically like precursor to who he played in Star Wars. But it's like the perfect role for him.
Hold on. Who the fuck is he in the Mouth of Madness? He's got to
He
be a
must.
kid then.
Yeah, I was gonna say he
He
must
was a
be a kid.
paper boy in that movie.
A
Okay,
paper
he
boy in
popped.
the
It
mouth of
popped up on his
madness.
letterbox, and I'm like, where?
John Carpenter was a visionary, clearly.
He was. He knew. He knew early.
He
Was
knew.
he a moody paperboy?
I'll now I'll have to rewatch and let you know. I'll take a picture of it when I do.
Anyway, Chris, what have you been watching?
Um, Probably won't surprise too many people to hear I've been watching a lot of the new Vinegar Syndrome titles.
Hmm.
Um, for the first time in my life, I rewatched more, or I watched more than 5 minutes of that movie Sliver with Sharon Stone and one of the Baldwins. It's a
Wow.
little, it's a little murder mystery from the 90s with about this woman who moves into an apartment complex and looks very similar to the woman who just committed suicide. And there's foul play afoot, and it's a very steamy, kind of erotic movie with Sharon Stone. It's, it's great. um, I saw The Keep, and I watched it twice because I was trying to understand why it gets so much hate. I mean, I guess it's kind of an overly simplistic plot, but like it's very. I liked it. I don't know. Have y'all seen The Keep?
Yeah, it sucks.
It's been a long time since I've seen the Keep because I kept hoping if they released it, they would do a director's cut. So I've never like went back and
I
rewatched. But I
don't.
guess now we know they're not. There's not going to be.
I don't think it sucks though. Like it's
There isn't.
fine.
There is no plot. You said it oversimplistic. There is no plot.
No, of course there's a plot. These Nazis are trying to break into this multi-dimensional thing, and it's too much for them to bear.
That's not a plot. That's a premise.
Yeah, I mean,
It's not.
so is most of what I like.
What did you I need to know what you thought of the sex scene because I think it's the worst sex scene ever put on film. It's like two aliens who don't know what sex is.
Is it worse than Bat Pussy?
I've never seen that,
Uh,
so I can't comment.
no, it's different.
See, I feel like this is the time where Chris is like the expert here.
How is it in relationship to Bad Pussy?
Yeah.
No, I mean, the thing is that, like, Bad Pussy's not a sex scene. Like, it's like this weird, like, that's the joke in the whole thing, which is why I want Adam to watch it because it's like, I mean, technically, there's two people naked rolling around in bed, but like, it's like an anti-erotic movie. Like, there's absolutely nothing. It's just funny. This one is like, God, it's a good question. It's not a good sex scene. This is like two aliens, like they kind of like a early version of AI that's not good, that was trying to figure out how to create a romantic scene or like an intimate scene. Um, yeah, no, it's not great. But like, I don't know. I guess it has good visuals in it. I mean, the movie's a bit of a mess, I guess. I don't know. I had fun with it. Um, let's see, what else have I watched? Oh, there's a cool Swedish movie that's made in English from the 85 called Blood Tracks. And it's one of these movies where they have like a theme song and you hear the theme song early on in the movie and it's just like this it's an actual rock band or like kind of metal band that plays a fictional rock band in the movie and they sorry and they play this song that literally just goes blood tracks. Like they play that song like 30 times in the 80 minutes. um so it's one of those, but it's fun. It has some good kills. The kills are actually surprisingly kind of vicious. And then saw the movies we did for film club, which I'm trying to remember now. There was one that I didn't get a chance to comment on that we did two weeks ago that I actually kind of liked. I need to go back and make a comment there. Um, but then I'm trying to remember which one it was. Did either one of y'all do the film club stuff. Oh, Brute Force we just saw, which
Yeah,
I
I
think it's
saw.
good, but
Yeah, I saw it a long time ago. I didn't rewatch it for the film club, but I have. Arrow put out a nice Dasin double set a few years
yeah,
ago. So I watched it then, but yeah, I didn't rewatch it. But yeah, it's all right.
yeah, it's okay. I think Latro is better. Oh, Polyester, that was a fun one. And there's
Yeah,
a
I wasn't going to watch that one to be honest.
that's well, I don't know why, but it's good. Like, it's very, very John Waters.
Yeah, I just don't
Um,
vibe with John Waters. It's not that I don't. It's
God.
not that I think he's bad or anything. It's just not my vibe.
Well, not that you would want to listen to a commentary if you don't like the movie, but it's the commentary for Polyester is on the channel, and it's interesting because his like he kind of lets down the facade, and he just kind of speaks like a mm, almost like a professor or something. You get to see this slightly more historian side of John Waters about like the movies that he loves and kind of influenced him, like the role that Divine played in Hollywood, how they, like most of his career, they tried to get him to stop using Divine. And he looks back at his like antics with kind of like a sense of humor, but it's a really good commentary. Like I think it's very sincere.
That doesn't
And
surprise me. Like Waters is a very intelligent guy.
sure,
Um,
sure, sure.
so I'm not doesn't surprise me at all. But yeah, it's just his movies just don't really do it for me. At least the ones I've seen anyway.
I
Fair
think
enough.
my favorite John Waters fact is that Werner Herzog didn't know he was gay for a long time. I think that just makes me laugh every time I see that clip.
There's a there's a great quote about Andrew Tate that says, "I've never seen a grown man struggle so much with a closet door." And you know the new like internet celebrity sort of guy, Andrew Tate, the real gem of a human.
Yeah, very scumbag. Yeah.
And and I kind of feel that way about Werner Herzog sometimes. I don't know. Um, I don't know his proclivities, but he's so interesting. Some of the stuff he doesn't like, or I don't know. But anyways, obviously Werner Herzog is a gem, and
I
should,
just think about like that Simpsons episode where Homer doesn't realize the character that John Waters plays is gay. And I was
the
like, I'm so
left.
glad that just happened in real life.
Yeah, that's the left-handed store. Oh no, that's Ned Flanders.
That's Ned Flanders. No, he owns like a little like
That's
odd
something.
antique shop, basically,
Yeah,
like a thrift shop.
yeah.
Is
That's right. That's
is
right.
that
Like
the
the
is that the Zappa guy, or am I thinking of a different character?
no, it's called
No,
like
it's
the
just really just
Emporium
John
something.
Waters playing John Waters, but
Yeah.
Oh,
it
okay.
just Homer becomes like really good friends with him. And then Marge finally tells him, he's like, Homer, don't you think he's a little, don't you notice he's a little flamboyant? He's like, oh yeah, happy as can be. He's like, don't you think he's gay? Oh yeah, super happy guy. He's like, Homer, he is a hoe, sexual. And then he like freaks out. And then he thinks Bart is going to become gay.
Yeah,
Oh,
And he
yeah,
I
like
yeah.
takes
do
him to
know
a
this
steel mill.
episode.
Yeah, he takes him to a steel mill. He's like, Dad, why'd you take me to a gay steel mill? I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, they break out into
Is
song.
that's the one where he puts him sitting on front of the billboard all
He's like,
day?
I want a cigarette.
Yeah, I know it is. It's so yeah, it's the one where he goes zap zap with the gun. Yeah,
Oh, is that the one? Okay, I haven't seen the episode in years, so I'm glad there is a there is a connection.
yes, no, that is definitely the one I was thinking of as well. With the when he's wearing the blue shirt. But yeah, it is this is
um,
John Waters playing himself.
but yeah, just there, just to finish before we get into the episode, I watched Eric the Conqueror specifically in prep for this, which is a Bava film. So tying into your love of old Italian movies. Also, I'm very turned on that you watched so many Italian, old classic Italian movies, Adam. Even if you didn't like all of them, that
Thank
makes me
you.
very happy.
Th- Thanks, I guess.
Zach, what about you?
All right, so I think the best way if I went through every movie we saw between the last time we recorded and now, that's like 50 movies, and I'm not gonna make anybody go through that. So I'll just do the ones that I've seen this year, which is like 13 movies. Um,
Wait,
so
what do you
let's see.
mean? Wait. We're recording this on the 5th.
Uh-huh.
You've seen 13 movies already?
Correct.
Oh my God, that's awesome, Zach.
I was off on the first. I got to watch like 5 movies. I didn't do anything else.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
Because and all that was like rewatches. So I watched Avatar, Furiosa, Big Trouble in Little China, Cemetery Man, and A Knight's Tale. So that was like day one.
Bangers.
A lot of what I've been rewatching is like because I'm rewatching a lot of my favorites from like 2024. So I rewatched Monkey Man, Trap, Long Legs, Love Lies Bleeding, which is important because you were talking about Nosferatu, Adam, and I went to go see that with my sister. And this seems to happen like 30% of the time where we'll go see a movie together. And there is a scene that just makes me uncomfortable. The fact that I'm sitting next to my sister while I watch this. Nosferatu had a small amount of that where, Lily, what's her name?
Lily Rose Depp.
Lily Rose Depp, where she like moans a lot. And I'm like, yep, okay, this is fun.
I was wedged between two strangers. So it was just
Yeah.
three dudes in a row as this was going on. I felt like I was in a strip club or something. It was weird.
Did you touch
Now,
their legs while you were watching it just to be close from it?
No, but I did man spread just so that they knew who was in charge.
Good job. I
Good.
need you need to do that in situations like that. Yeah, and the only other time this has really been bad is when I went to go see X in theaters the second time. I was in like the third row from the screen, and there was a 13-year-old sitting next to me. You
Ah.
want to talk about being fucking uncomfortable?
Why was the 13-year-old admitted? Well, why was the
I mean, if
13-year-old
you're
let
with your
in?
parent, you can go. He was with his parent. He was with his dad.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and they
No,
both
but
liked it. I mean, they were talking about it afterwards. I'm like, you go, man. I would not go see this movie with my dad.
We have
ever.
like pretty hard rules on like we have like with our age ratings, we have ones that are like 15 and then 15A. And for 15A, you have to have you can be under 15 if you're with an adult, but if something is rated for 18s, which X was, it's like strictly 18s over. No, you
The only
can't.
one we have that for here is NC-17,
yeah,
and movies just don't go to the theater at NC-17.
Oh,
yeah.
okay. Interesting.
Yeah, I mean it's getting a little bit more popular now, and honestly, I think it's because a lot of films just say fuck the ratings board, will just release because a lot of
Yeah.
theaters will just say okay, like a lot of like I've noticed more now on the Regal app, especially when you do foreign films, a lot of them don't even bother going to the MPA anymore.
Yeah.
They'll just release it unrated,
Oh,
which you
okay.
couldn't have done like 10 years ago. No theater would have accepted it. But
Interesting.
beggars can't be choosers when it comes to movie theaters.
There was a funny story around Christmas time about two movies that came out. One of them was a kids movie, and it had this huge bump because people were buying tickets for that and sneaking in to go see the other one
Terrifier.
Oh,
People
Terrifier
were
3.
buying
Yeah.
I forgot which movie it was, but they were buying that because Terrifier was, I believe, NC-17.
That's right. I was gonna say that's
Or there was just a hard policy in a lot of places that they would not admit kids without their parent.
so they were going to see like Kung Fu Panda 7 or whatever, and then
Yeah.
going to yeah.
Yeah. But the reason I brought that up is because I rewatched Love Lies Bleeding, and that was the last time that happened with my sister, is because there's like, I don't know if either one of you have seen it, there's just a lot of lesbian sex scenes in that movie, and I'm just sitting there next to my sister and her boyfriend like, this is weird. So
Are they at least tasteful?
I mean, define tasteful.
Like on a scale of Mulholland Drive to was it The Handmaiden? Is the part film?
No.
I would say it's closer to The Handmaiden than it
Oh,
is
okay.
Mulholland Drive.
Okay.
But
No,
I
what's
mean,
the
it's
French
directed
one?
by a
Blue's
woman. I
the
don't know if she's gay or not, but it is directed by a woman in this
I
case.
haven't seen the French one, Chris, so I couldn't comment on it, but I heard that that's quite gratuitous as well. Blue
Blue's
is
the
the
warmest
warmest
color.
color. Yeah, I haven't seen
It's not
it.
that bad. It's not blue as the warmest color bad, I would say.
Hmm.
But yeah, so I rewatched that, and then I went to the theater for my first theater watch, first 2025 film called The Damned, which is like this slow burn atmospheric horror taking place in like Iceland, where these fishermen are in like the 19th century. It was fine. I really think it was one of those things where it had way too few of scares, because it was like, if we go really slow, they won't notice there's only like 3 horror scenes in this whole thing. And the ending kind of sucked. So it was fine. Good way to start the year. It's what you expect in January. And then I have been finishing off the last couple days. I've been going through the Pusher trilogy, which was what started Nicholas Winding Refn's career, where it talks about the underworld of the Copenhagen drug underworld. Really fascinating movies because they're all treated like they're 9 to 5 jobs, and they just all go really, really bad. I think I like my best comparison for Pusher 2, which has Mads Mikkelsen, who we'll be talking about soon, where he plays the main character, and it's pretty much falling down. if Douglas's character was just a complete fuck up
Nice.
in every way. So those have been really great. I'm gonna watch the third one today. I mean, they still have a lot of reference, like you know what you expect from them. There is still some use of color. It's just not quite as vibrant as what his career would have. It's probably the most straightforward. I think the more fascinating thing is if you wanted to like get into Refn before he stops caring about plot and just ignoring it. These are probably the most accessible films he's, as far as what I've watched that he's made. Like it's more accessible than Drive or Bronson, and I'd say those are both fairly accessible. These are just pretty much straightforward movies, but with his touch to them.
Interesting.
But speaking of Refn, I guess we should get into that, right?
Jump on in. Yeah.
Yeah. So let me pull up his film. Let's see. Let me get that on Letterbox. So I do want to go. So the reason I picked these was I did a kind of a watch of these. I can't talk and type. I apologize. I can't spell when I'm talking. There has been kind of this weird uptick of Norse stuff, and I feel like I mean I think it's always kind of been there, especially because some of these movies came out before
Hmm.
God of War 2018. But I especially find that after God of War 2018, it got everywhere. So it's really fascinating to see kind of like, you know, almost like the Egyptian stuff is being pushed away more for the Norse stuff, which I think is really fascinating. So
I
I
think
thought we'd
that
talk about
that
what's that?
TV show Vikings probably helped as well. That
That's
was
it,
very
that
that was
too. Yeah.
popular, wasn't it? I
I
haven't
forgot
seen
about
it.
Vikings. Yeah. And then they did Last Kingdom, which I think is like a less schlocky Vikings from what I've heard.
Okay, I haven't seen either of them. I just know that Vikings was always really popular. I always hear people talking about. Well, I used to
Yeah,
always
I
hear people
actually forgot
talking
about
about
it
it.
where I don't watch any TV. So that's a good shout. I forgot about that. But we'll go back to 2009, and we'll talk about Valhalla Rising, which is a really long letterboxed synopsis. So let me get through this. There's more words in this synopsis than there are in the movie. So Scandinavia, 1000 AD. For years, One Eye, a mute warrior of the supernatural strength, has been held prisoner by the Norse chieftain Bard. Aid by Air, a boy slave, One Eye slays captors together as he and Air escape, beginning a journey into the heart of darkness. On their flight, One Eye and Air board a Viking vessel, but the ship is soon engulfed by an endless fog that clears only as the crew in sight to an unknown land. As the New World reveals as the New World reveals its secrets and the Vikings confront their terrible and bloody fate, One Eye discovers his true self.
That's like the whole plot of the movie.
Yeah, no
That's it.
fucking kidding, man.
That's it. That's the film. There we
Yeah,
go.
like that was like the long elevator pitch from like the first floor to like the 20th floor. That's the movie.
You
I've run
literally
your
could have just
outline.
like you literally could have stopped after the Heart of Darkness part. I feel like that's
Yeah,
plenty.
yeah, I don't understand like where Letterbox pulls this shit from sometimes. Sometimes they have really good synopsises, but I find when you get into movies like this that don't have like 150,000 people have seen at least, they get weird. Like the
Well,
less people
anybody,
seen it, that's just like, who cares?
the problem is anybody can change the summary on TMDB, right? The
Yeah.
movie database. So, like anybody could go in and edit it.
I'm gonna do that before our next show. Just start like
Yeah,
putting
yeah, yeah. We
wild
should
shit
we
in
should
there.
start writing our own
We
summaries.
should. It would be easier.
So who wants to go first? Who wants to talk a little bit about how they feel
Well,
about Valhalla
I
Rising?
thought before we get into it, I think this is interesting a little bit because I was expecting this to be higher up as far as critically. Um, and they shoot zombies. It's 4,823,
Okay.
which at that point, I mean, you know, it's not really, it's just on a few people's lists. And they shoot pictures, it's all the way down at 10,501.
This has been pretty divisive since it released. Now, I don't find it very surprising going through
Wow.
like a lot of his films previously. Refn has this as his favorite film he's ever made, which does not surprise me. Like it's about as little on plot as possible and completely vibes.
Yeah.
Like I've seen this movie 3 times, and I think now I kind of get everything that's going on. Kind of. Sometimes it just kind of gets out there.
Um, yeah. I mean, I didn't mean to start, but like maybe since I started talking, I'll just go because I kind of agree with you. I mean, the interesting thing is I didn't have a bad time watching it. Like, partially because I think the visually this is just the way they shot exteriors and the way they shot the locations they chose are so stunning that like even if you just watch it as like a documentary or like you know like a one of these sort of like nature films, it's still just a beautiful watch.
Well, that
Um,
reminds me, he has a TV show on Amazon called Too Old to Die Young, and he got a decent amount of money from this one Amazon executive who liked to throw his movies on the TV as like almost as like an art piece.
oh, uh-huh.
He never really watched them. He just had them constantly running on a television. And so he just gave Refn a fuck ton of money to make a really slow, fairly pretentious 8 episode miniseries.
Interesting. I mean, I don't know who. I was just trying to see who the cameraman was for this. It looks like it's Morten Schorberg, so I don't know much about Morten Schorberg, but maybe
Sounds
somebody,
Danish.
yeah, maybe a Danish guy. But it's quite beautiful. I don't know what there is to say about this movie. I mean, I think it's like, for me, it's fine. It's not a bad watch. Um, it's very, very, very simplistic. And then in the last like 5 or 10 minutes, you see like a lot kind of happens. But even in that, saying a lot happens, like, a little bit happens. But it's like the most happens in the last, few minutes, and you kind of see him, uh, the fact that he was like plotting this journey the whole time, right? And you start to see it play out a little bit, which is interesting. So I don't know, the movie kind of grew on me as I was going along.
It's just it's what about you, Adam? What did you think of the film?
Um, like the film has some cool ideas, which I think you can probably say that about a lot of Refn's work. There's a lot of cool ideas going on, but then there's just so much other stuff that doesn't really work for me that kind of dampens it a little bit. Like when the sort of second, or I guess more the last act of the film kicks in and everyone starts losing their fucking minds, I vibed with that. I thought that the kind of build up at the start of the film was cool, showing Mad Mikkelsen's character kind of escaping from his captors and stuff. There's a lot of really cool actiony stuff. The fights are cool, the gore is good. Like there's a lot of cool ideas. Um, but there's kind of bigger things about it that kind of make it like just dampen it for me. Like I'm the opposite of Chris. I fucking hate how this film looks. More not necessarily the cinematography, but like the color grading. I hate that kind of washed out bluey black kind of color grading that they do in the kind of 2000s. I just hate how it looks. Like the kind of high contrast stuff. So this was a really ugly film for me to watch. Not the scenery or anything. Obviously, there was some shots of scenery that were very nice. I believe it was all shot in Scotland, if I remember correctly from what I read. Um, but
Yeah,
obviously,
that's what I found. Yeah.
what they did later on in editing with the color grading and stuff, I hate it so much. It just really annoys me. I just find it repulsive. Um,
It probably doesn't
and
help he's colorblind. That never helps. Like with him.
okay, well, like I'm sure he has an editor that can tell him, "Yo,
Oh
man,
yeah.
this looks like shit."
He probably did at
So
this point. Yeah, I don't think anybody really says no to him anymore.
and to be fair, like you wouldn't know he was colorblind going by Drive because Drive is so colorful. So I don't really think that's even an excuse.
Well, I
Um,
think because I think the color's weird in this, right? Like it does have a lot of that drab look, like all the advertising. Like I own the Blu-ray, and it really shows off that drab 2000s look. But then there is this like wild use of color, like at different points of the film. And I was,
there's a few moments of like red. There's a lot of heavy reds in
yeah,
there. But yeah, I think for the most part everything just is like high contrast, washed out. You can't even really make out the sky because it's all just washed out. Yeah, I just don't think the color grading is very good for the majority of the film. It's not even very good. It's bad. Um, and then my biggest issue really the whole way through the film is I was just trying to grasp what the actual point is. And I guess that's probably my own fault for trying to figure out what the point of a Refn film is. But like, I just didn't really get what the plot was. Like, I knew that we were doing things and going places, but like, I got the end of the film and I just thought, like, what was the point of any of this? Why did One Eye have to do these things, or why did he do these things? What was his end game here? He just went to a place and then a thing happened and then the movie ended and it felt like all of it was just pointless. Um, so yeah, I kind of walked away not really knowing why I watched it. And that coupled with the annoying way the film looks didn't help. But I thought the cast were all excellent. I thought the cast were all very, very good. Like I said, there was some scenes or themes that were explored that I thought were very interesting. Mads Mikkelsen's always great, even if he doesn't have a ton to do here vocally, of course, because he's mute. But he just has this kind of stoicness about him that's always good. Um, but yeah, there was too many things, too many major detractors for me to really say that I liked it. I thought it was
I
just
have
fine.
I have a one thing I want to say about um like the way the story kind of plays out. But Zach, I want to hear from you first before we go in there.
This is one, and it's going to be similar to the next film I'll talk about, so it's going to be probably repetitive for me. This is one that has grown on me the more I've seen. I think when I watched it in December, it was the third time I'd seen it. Um, so I mean, I've obviously there's something that just kept drawing me back to it, and it kind of I don't know if it's just being more familiar with his work because I think this was the first Refn film I had ever seen when I watched it originally. Because this is back when Netflix used to actually just throw on like weird shit back in the early days, and you would find these like random ass movies. This was one of them, so I wasn't familiar with them then, and I don't think in a film you have to be familiar. A movie should be able to stand on its own without being familiar with its director to a degree. But I do think watching more of his stuff, I feel like I don't know, it helped me throughout being and like I said, I don't know if that's necessarily a pro to the movie that you feel like you almost have to understand its director to understand the film or at least appreciate it more. But I don't know. I like it. It is just more of a vibe piece. You just kind of watch it and you just and I agree because everything Adam says, and this is the thing I've always had with Ref, and I agree absolutely with everything Adam says. That there's no real plot. I don't even really know what the point is. But I come to the end saying, I don't know, I like that, and I can't explain it, and I know that's not a satisfying answer either. So I guess that's where I would end on it as first thoughts.
Yeah, the interesting thing about this one was I feel like I don't know exactly the best way to say this, but I think he does a really good job of making this world, first of all, building a world that's like interesting and feels like it has a depth and a history, and then making it feel like there's something happening that I kind of wanted to learn about. Like he had a connection, like especially as they were on this journey, then they got to the island, and then bad things started to happen to the people that came
You
with
mean
him.
Delaware?
And
No,
that's
straight
right,
up, it's
Delaware.
Delaware. That's where that takes place.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's like the whole rock. The only
Uh,
reason you know that is because of the rock things. That was things like that's like a rune found later on in actual history. So that's like an explanation. But yeah, go on. I continue.
nice. Um, but yeah, like there's like a religious war at some point kind of going on, or there's like you don't know if One Eye is a human or if he's like some kind of a mystical force that's like guiding them to their doom. There's these questions that are brought up and not necessarily answered, but I think the world building is still good. That was kind of one of the things I liked about it. It's like I was drawn into whatever was going on, even if I didn't fully understand the lore.
There's a lot of thoughts that he's Odin as one eye because Odin was famously only had one eye. I don't know how much I go into that. I don't even know how much thought Refn necessarily put into it. I think it's an interesting reading because like there's this whole idea of like the death of these the old gods and and the bringer on of, the Abrahamic gods, because we see
Right.
as Christians are moving into new territory and are being missionaries. I don't know if that's quote unquote. I don't know how they define it then. Um, to spread that gospel, and
Right. Right.
and
Right.
how it's killing off like Norse religion. I don't know when Norse really stopped being. I don't know that historically when people stopped worshiping like Odin and stuff like that, but I assume it's similar to around this time.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I don't know anything historically. I almost, in a way, in a weird way, like I almost don't because, there's, I think, at least the first time through, I kind of don't want to know the details of what's going on because I think it works well as being open-ended for me.
Yeah, it's definitely more of an ambiguous piece. Like
Yeah,
you're gonna take it's I guess, similar to that Amazon guy. You look at a painting and you take from it what you're gonna take from it.
yeah,
Whether or not it's intentional by the painter itself, it is what it is.
right.
Whatever you felt is legitimate.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that's why, like, as Refn has went in his career, he has gotten less and less concerned with plot and less concerned with having a story in mind when he seems to be going through things, which is fascinating. But anytime somebody says, "Yeah, I don't like him," I'm like, "Yeah, I get that."
But I'm a little bit torn on that because wasn't Bronson made after this?
Uh, you know, he is. I think it's the same year, so I don't know which one was made first, because this was what 2008.
Not nine, right?
Let's see. So if it's 2009, then Bronson was made the year before.
Oh, okay, then I guess that would track. Yeah, 2008. Okay, fine.
Yeah, Bronson 2008, Valhalla Rising 2009, then Drive in 2011.
Yeah, yeah. So, and he's been in the U.S. since, I believe, with everything.
Okay, fine. I
Yeah,
guess that goes with your theory then, because I was gonna say Bronson, I think is good on. It's very good on plot.
yeah. It's really where the line is, I think, because like, I mean, Drive
Okay.
has a plot, and it's much easier to dissect than this. Like, you can linearly point out what's happening. It's just that's when it starts to. It doesn't really matter. It's there, but it doesn't really matter.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just looking through. He seems to really get into like a neon phase for a few years.
Still in it. I mean, Copenhagen Cowboy is just like I don't know how he can go any further with the neon thing. Like at this
Okay.
point,
Okay.
based on like his last Netflix show, I'm like I don't know. He's really gone hard into that.
All right. All right.
Yeah, I don't know if his next film what if it's going to do the same thing. I think he's pretty much burned all the bridges at making TV shows at Amazon and Netflix because his shows do not. No one watches them.
Interesting.
I straight up didn't even know he had made shows.
Oh yeah, they like he'll get money, and then Netflix and Amazon will say it. And they're like, no, like why did we give him all this money? Like with Amazon, like that guy who gave him all the money, he was like close to finishing, and then another executive realized there was like a show being made, and he like went on set and he's like, what the fuck is this? And had to like cut his funding. He's like, no, we're not blowing any more money on this.
Wow.
Like no more.
One
Poor,
thing
poor
with
Richard.
Refn that I do respect a lot is that he's big into film preservation as well. I don't know if you guys are familiar with what he does there.
Bat Pussy, we
Um,
could bring it up again.
oh, he was involved with that with Bat
He was the
Pussy.
leading guy for it, I believe, right, Chris?
Oh, well, that's amazing.
Wait,
Um,
for what?
Bat Pussy, he was like one of the big ones. He was the one who originally found that movie, wasn't he?
Well, yeah, so he has a huge archive and
yeah,
people just send him movies, but he's one of the people that helped build AGFA, which is kind of cool.
that is cool. Yeah, because I've seen I remember they might still do. I haven't had a movie subscription in a while, but I remember Mubi had like a collection of films that were from his kind of archive that he helped
Yeah.
restore and get back up and running. And the one I always remember is Night Tide, the film with Dennis Hopper where he
Okay.
falls in love with a woman who may or may not be a mermaid. It's a great film.
Nice.
Um, so I think that's cool that he's into that as well, even if he's not into making films as much these days as opposed to TV shows. I'm glad that he also does this stuff as well because I remember looking through the list before of like films that are in this archive, and it's just like the weirdest, craziest, kookiest shit. Um, which, we've always said that it's good that somebody can keep these films alive because these are the kind of films that nobody would ever remember because they obviously didn't do well because they were too weird and whatever.
Sure, sure,
Um,
sure.
so yeah.
But I think it's interesting because you're talking about he's more interested in TV shows, and I swear it's just to make the movies as slow as possible. Because like if you were to watch these shows, and I like both of them, but if you were to watch them, you could make these into 2-hour films easy. I think he just wants to be as glacially slow as he possibly can be.
That's
If
so
they would
funny.
give him enough money to make 5 seasons, he would make a 2-hour film 5 seasons long.
Well, you should just stop being a little bitch about it and just make a 7 hour film like that dude from the Philippines, what Lav Diaz
Oh yeah, yeah,
makes
yeah.
like
He could
seven
be the
hour
Danish
movies.
Bellatar.
Yeah, like you should just stop being a little bitch about it and just do it.
Get on his Instagram. Apparently, he's very active on there. Get on his
Oh, fab!
Instagram.
I'm definitely gonna do
Please, I want to see the reaction. And
that.
post it on here. Do we have any
Yeah,
final thoughts on Valhalla Rising before we move on?
I
yeah. I was
don't
gonna say, I
particularly.
don't know. Like, I think this is one of those movies where there's not, unless you really go like nerd out hardcore and really get into like scene by scene of what's going on and like the imagery and the metaphor, which I do feel like is in there somewhere. But unless you do that, there's not too much to talk about. Like, right, Mads is awesome in the role, and essentially the story is he's leading this group of Christians, right,
Mhm.
into some land, and as the film progresses, like they start to trust him more and view him as like somebody worth following, and that ends up being a bad decision for their long-term health. And then there's a weird scene, kind of ambiguous scene with like natives on the land that they're in, and then he just walks away into the sunset. I mean, like
Yeah,
it's like a, I don't know, it almost feels like a music video or something, the way it's shot, but it's a very pretty one, even though Adam doesn't like the color grading.
Yeah, it sucks.
so we'll move on to Jordan Downey and his 2018, I think it actually released in 2019 film, The Headhunter. If for some reason Jordan Downey sounds familiar to anyone, it is the Thanksgiving director who made two Thanksgiving films. So, this is a little bit different for him as we follow on the outskirts of a kingdom. A quiet but fierce medieval warrior protects the realm from the monsters and the occult. His gruesome collection of heads is missing only one, the monster that killed his daughter years ago. Driven by the thirst for revenge, he travels wild expanses on horseback. When his second chance arrives, it's in a way far more horrifying than he ever imagined. So I've already know y'all scores because I've seen them on Letterboxd. So the question is, Adam, should we start with you since you're the dissenting opinion, or Chris? Should we kind of have the back and forth? Have Chris, since you're more positive, and then Adam. Which way would you guys like to do it?
Like I don't mind because like I would argue that my opinion isn't dissenting. I'm not going to come on here and say that the film is shit or whatever.
No, I'm just saying in comparison. I'll say that. I should have.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'd say in comparison. I should have
like
led with that.
yeah, like if anyone follows me on Letterboxd, you'll see I rated it 2.5, which for me is a 5 out of 10.
Yeah.
So perfectly mid. And I don't mean that as a like it's hard for me to kind of give this a higher score because for me, this is as good as you can get with $30,000 and people sharing roles and stuff. Like it's a low budget film, and you can tell it's a low budget film. It's mainly done by two guys, Jordan Downey and the co-writer Kevin Stewart, and they basically
Mhm.
shared a lot of the roles in terms of producing, cinematography, editing. And they kind of shared it, each did their own kind of role. And for what they did for 30,000, it's very impressive. The special effects, the costume design, everything with that is very, very impressive for a film made for $30,000. Um, but there's a lot of things in this where you can tell it's made for $30,000. The cinematography is all very uninspiring because they obviously had to do just a lot of close cuts to make sure that you couldn't tell that this was all cheap fake stuff that they made look good. There's a lot of jarring changes in the style that the way it's shot, which I think is probably down to the fact that this was done by the co-writer Kevin Stewart as opposed to an actual, mm, an actual professional cinematographer, which are obviously expensive. Um, I think that the kind of general production design again not particularly amazing, but again, it is what it is. It's a $30,000 film. Um, and then like it's a 72-minute film. It really stretches out its very thin plot all the way through that 72 minutes. There's a lot of stuff that's just contemplative before it has an ending, which I find was really unearned. Um, I don't like the ending of the film. Um, but yeah, like I don't think it's a bad movie or anything. Like it's like I have mad respect for these two guys for doing this for 30K. What they did, they obviously stretched their budget. Um, but it is what it is. Like if they had another 30K or 60K or a million, it would probably have been a better film just purely because they would have had higher production values. They would have been able to hire an actual cinematographer and an actual editor to make it just have a better feel. Um, but yeah, like I said, I don't think it's a bad movie, but I think like it's as good as you can get for 30,000, which is, fine.
Okay. And then Chris, I'm guessing none of these have ended up on either list, if I had to take a
Well,
guess.
funny you mentioned that. Not on They Shoot Pictures. However, They Shoot Zombies. This is quite a bit higher than Valhalla Rising. We're getting all the way up into 2008-99.
Okay. That's pretty quick for a movie that's only like 4 years old, 4 or 5
Yeah,
years
yeah,
old.
yeah. Yeah, and a movie that I think has relatively limited exposure, right? Um,
Not to make you feel have an existential crisis, but 2018 was like 7 years ago now.
Oh yeah, I guess it was, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, sorry
Yeah.
to be
It's
that
okay.
guy.
Yeah.
well, no, it was late 2018, early 2019, right? And we're in early 2025. So
That's still like
basically
seven
just
years ago,
5 years.
6 years ago.
Um,
We're not a math
it,
podcast, Adam.
yeah, it's our version of girl math, whatever that they live by film math. Um, sorry, I'm just laughing. Right below the headhunter on this list is Groundhog Day.
That's based to put that on the horror list.
Yeah, they shoot zombies is hilarious. Anyways, okay. Yeah, I like it a lot. I mean, like this screams to me something that could be put out by Saturn's Core. Although I don't think it was shot on video. I think this looks like film or possibly digital. But like
I will look
it
it
look,
up while you're talking.
yeah.
I'll
But
do
it's
that.
not. I don't.
For a
It's not
30K
a.
budget, it's definitely digital. It was
That's
shot
what
on
I'm thinking.
a DSLR or something.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's kind of what I'm thinking too. But um, all the things you mentioned, Adam, it doesn't. Once I know going into a movie that this is essentially like a no budget film, like none of that necessarily matters to me. And the things that I kind of look for at that point are like, do I think he has an interesting vision? Is there a good idea in here? And like how does the kind of execute against that idea? And I think he nails it. Like, there's a fun little twist at the end. Even though there's not exposition, I think it's easy to understand what's going on by, like 15, 20 minutes in, you kind of get like what's happening. Um, and I think there's good storytelling just visually, basically, because there's still not a lot of dialogue in this. It was so funny watching these three days in a row. The Northman felt like way too much talking after after seeing all these. There's more dialogue in the first 5 minutes of Northman than I think in these two films combined. This movie it gave off a little bit of like Evil Dead kind of vibes, not in the comedy sense, but in the way that there's like kind of some whimsy and this world building a little bit, and like, I think it was meant to be more of a horror film as opposed to a horror comedy, but there's just some moments that were, I don't know, like almost a little bit funny to me because they're so crazy.
Yeah,
Like
and I
when he's
mean, keep
holding
in
up.
mind, along with Thanksgiving, he also did a Critters short film or fan film as well. So that's
That's awesome.
more of his wheelhouse.
Yeah, yeah, and I think it shows a little bit to me that he's good at like the comedy stuff. But yeah, like it's a clever. I mean, this is essentially a short film, right? I know it's a feature length, but like this could easily be a 40-minute short, and I think we'd be talking about it as like, oh, this really cool idea and cool premise um, of this little like gel that seems to reanimate whatever skin it touches. And so he uses it to heal himself when he goes out on these kind of gnarly missions. And you learn what they're for, and then there's a nasty little twist at the end. So yeah, I this kind of like the more I was watching it, I really really hate the poster for this. Not that that matters, but it's just not my scene, like not my vibe at all. And I was like, oh man, not gonna like this. But like the more that it went on, I found myself really liking it, and then thinking
It's a
about
very
it.
direct to video poster. Yeah.
One
Yeah,
thing
I
I'd
guess
recommend if you don't like the poster on Letterboxd, go to the Wikipedia page. The poster is way better. Like I would hang the poster on Wikipedia on my wall.
We'll look at which one they have while y'all talk, because I'm curious. And also, I could not find the camera for the headhunter. Isn't listed on IMDb. And if you put in camera for the headhunter is a photography job. So good fucking luck figuring that out.
Oh
So
yeah, good call. Good call. Oh
oh yeah,
yeah,
that
that's
poster's dope.
much better.
Yeah, I love
Yeah.
that. That's really
Yeah.
cool.
See, that makes it like a movie that looks interesting to see. That's good.
Christopher Shy apparently made that. I don't know who that is, but
For a
he
film
did that.
festival, it looks like.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, no, that's it. I mean, I think Zach, I was kind of messaging you in the background here while we were preparing for this, but like this is one of those ones that I guess surprised me. I don't know, but like in a good way, and I ended up liking it a lot. I think it's one of the more original horror films, and it's I hope it gets a good reputation in time, and I hope Jordan Downey keeps getting money to make movies because it's obvious he can do a lot with very little.
Yeah, and this was actually, I think I mentioned it when we talked behind the scenes. This was actually the movie when I rewatched it. I this was the one that made me want to go with this theme because originally we were going to be doing some Jason Statham 2000s movies where Adam would have been able to complain the whole episode about color grading. We'll get to that though. I'll let Adam, I will give you your time to bitch about color grading in the
Thank you.
2000s.
Appreciate it.
But no, honestly, I was more in the dissenting. I think the first time I watched this film, I probably would have given it like a 4 out of 10. I really didn't vibe with it. I had read an article on Bloody Disgusting about it, and I was a bit disappointed by it, and I didn't really think about it for a long time. I rewatched Valhalla Rising, and I was like, well, hell, while we're here, I might as well watch this one too. And I don't know if it was just the having the right like expectations for it, or if it's just I don't know. My taste has significantly changed in 7 years to I don't know. I can't really say. But the thing I love about this film, I am a this is gonna be a little off, feel a little off top, but I'll bring it around. Uh, I love the story of Beowulf. That is like one of my like if we talk about old literature, that's like one of my favorites. And I'm always very disappointed that there's not really a good Beowulf adaptation in film. They really like to do the first two acts, and then once Grendel is gone, it's like, who cares about the dragon? Let's just cut that off. And it's always been, I think there is a way to do that film, but I think the mistake they sometimes make, and I understand because of like how big the scope is of that film, that they want to make it like this big epic film. But honestly, something like The Headhunter, obviously you need more than 30K, but The Headhunter this time around really felt like a almost like a poem to me. Like when you watch it, it feels like, if you were to read like an old poem from the medieval ages, this is what it would be about. I really appreciated this time around, which I think was my biggest complaint when I watched the first time, is he would go out for these battles and we wouldn't get to see shit. And now I like that a lot more. Like I like, those scenes where he comes back and he's all like bruised and bloody, and obviously that could be just be down to a more of a financial decision than a creative one. But I am a big believer that limitations in budget can sometimes come out with the better option.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I think that was the right choice here because when you do, they obviously save a lot of the money for the effects towards the end. And I think that pays it off. I would much rather not see everything else and just see the aftermath and get to see what we do towards the end of the film.
Totally agree. Um, yeah. No, I think like what what I don't know if y'all had a chance to listen to the interview with Scooter McCrae yet that we did in December, but that was like that was some I was asking him like because he had this movie called Shadow Dead, and the whole premise of Shadow Dead is that zombies like basically there's a disease that goes around where people die, but don't they don't actually die a full death, but they're not bloodthirsty zombies. They just kind of exist in like this perpetual malaise. And it's such a cool idea for a film, and he builds this world up. And he had $10,000, and that includes buying a camera. So he had like no money for the movie. Um, but he, by not showing a lot of the typical zombie stuff and making it more about the characters, he's able to do a lot. And I think, there's so many examples of this in that if you, for anybody that makes a movie under $100,000, basically, I mean, there's not much of a difference between 30,000 or 60,000. That's not like you don't have much money to do anything with, really, right?
Well, and
And
it reminds me a lot of like what you hear from a lot of these guys who, shot on film originally. You heard a lot from Ridley Scott. I believe Scorsese has made similar comments. The entry for making film is low because even though if you're talented enough, you can make a whole lot work with very little. Because camera film, you don't have to worry about film anymore. You don't have to worry about how expensive these cameras are. I mean, Steven Soderbergh made fucking like 4 movies on an iPhone 7
yeah, yeah,
because
yeah,
he was
yeah,
bored. I guess I don't know. He was bored or something. He's like, sure, why not?
yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's a very fascinating thing to see from these guys who I don't know bring. I think the entry is low, but to be successful still takes the talent, and I think that's why it's a good thing because these guys aren't having to like do it for their film school or do it for anything else. They do it because they got some buddies that are also passionate who can bring in a little money and work on weekends.
Yeah, speaking of that, I'm just looking at Downey's filmography, and I should have done this earlier, but don't y'all like the VHS movies?
Yeah, yeah, I'm a big fan.
Because he just put out a new one of those. Have you seen it?
I haven't seen the newest one because I know Kate Siegel directed one of them, and I'm curious about that one because Mike Flanagan's wife,
Oh,
and I
okay.
think there's a few other people that were in there that I was very interested in.
Yeah, yeah. I guess he's. I guess are they all anthology movies?
Yes, yes,
Okay,
they have probably like the worst wraparound stories you can ever like experience, but who
okay,
cares? You're there for the to see how they go. And they're usually the only one I would say is just not worth your time is Viral. The rest of them at least have like 2 or 3 stories that are just worth watching it for. And a few of them
okay.
have been made into feature films.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, you're right. This one is here's Kate Siegel. It has randomly Justin Long as a horror director now. I guess that's interesting. Um, and then Jordan Downey. Hmm.
Yeah, so
Sp-
I need to watch the newest one. I hadn't got around to. Was it Beyond? Is that the name
Yeah,
of it?
that's the name. Yeah, that's the one that he was part of. Um, speaking of celebrity deaths, or I mean not deaths, but celebrity couples. Have you heard about Aubrey Plaza's husband?
Oh yeah, that was wild. That was like really wild.
That's so crazy. The dude's 47 years old, and he just do you have any? It's like, I mean, like, is there any news yet about what it was or like what happened?
Suicide from what I heard.
Oh shit, really?
Yeah. I mean, I've been, it's wild. I feel bad. Didn't watch any of his movies and they're like every one of them is on my watch list. From everything I've heard, he was a super talented guy though. But I never did get around to watch. I think he did Horse Girl, he did The Little Hours, and I think a couple other things.
Yeah, he was a co-writer on a movie that I really liked. Uh, I'll find it in just a second, but Yeah, no, it's so crazy. And it's weird because I feel like Aubrey Plaza is the type that's seems to be around trauma or like around tragedy, and like she kind of makes jokes about it a little bit, but like, they were together for a long time. Like they've been dating since 2011. Um, yeah, I don't know. I feel bad. Like I've always had a soft spot for her. I think she's a really interesting and like creative and funny person. And I don't know. For some reason, that one hurt to read.
Yeah, it's kind of a wild way to start the year. But Adam has been quiet for way too long. And as do you have any other thoughts about the Headhunter, Adam?
No, I feel like I've kind of said all I need to say. Like I just want to reiterate, I don't think it's a bad movie. I respect them for what they were able to pull off with their budget, and I think with a bigger budget, it would have been a better movie. It's just as simple as that, really. And also, yeah, RIP to Jeff Baina. I'm a big Aubrey Plaza fan, so that's it's obviously incredibly sad for her and their family. So yeah.
Well, Chris, do you have any last things on the Headhunter before we move on to the last one?
No, I just want to promote like good storytelling in any form, you know? Like this is just I think he is very economical in his storytelling, and 72 minutes is an easy watch. I would give this one a chance. This was a great surprise.
Yeah, I do want to note while we're on that I think that's a bad habit. Even obviously for 30K, you can only make a movie so long, but there is this bad habit of even like lower, not micro, but just lower budget like period pieces where they have this need to make the film like 2.5 hours
Yeah, 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 yeah,
because
yeah.
it's like, well, this is prestige, so therefore I can get away with a 2.5 hour plot. And it's like, please don't. Just don't. Just make it quick. I actually do wish it would be more normal to make a movie like 70 minutes long.
No, I totally agree. I mean, when
Hard
I
agree.
you spoiled us with the picks, and to the point where when I got to the Northman, I was like 2 hours, but it actually did fly by pretty fast. But I think they used the time well. But yeah, a lot of people don't.
No, it's yeah. I mean, sometimes I think we get this idea that and I'm sure some of that's down to like back in the day. They knew a lot of this was going to end up on TV, and they had to account
Mm.
for how many commercials do we really want during our
Oh, maybe,
movie.
yeah.
And because it's like I remember Carpenter having to film extra scenes for Halloween just because they said, yeah, we can't fit the block. So they had to like go run out and go shoot like a couple extra scenes just for the TV version. And
Right.
I'm sure that was common, but yeah, nowadays it's like it's up on streaming. Just make a 70-minute movie if all you have is a 70-minute movie.
Yeah, yeah,
Normalize
exactly.
double-digit runtimes.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think we've talked about it plenty that I think a lot of modern films have this problem making their movies so fucking long.
Yeah,
And I'm not even someone as like anal about it as Adam is.
yeah. We're all in agreement here. Violent agreement.
All right, so we're going to talk about Eggers' third film of The Northman, the final in his The trilogy. So, young lion prince Simba flees when his father is killed by his usurper uncle. Years after betrayal and tragedy, a grown-up and mature Simba returns to the claim of his rightful place and throne. Who would like to go
I'm
first?
I'm so glad that you said that because yeah, I was like, this is Hamlet.
Yeah, this is like the original Hamlet story because it was Amaleth or however you say his fucking name in this. You just moved the all Shakespeare did was take the H and move it to front.
Oh shit. Okay, so it is literally okay.
It
Sorry, I
is it
was.
is Hamlet. It is just yeah. He literally just
This
when
is lit.
Shakespeare wrote it, he just saw the story and said, "Move. All right, new story. Cool guys, let's go."
Okay, so you can tell that I did no research about the Northman,
That's
because
fine.
I assumed this was an original story that was somewhat inspired by Hamlet. Okay, that makes way more fucking sense.
Yeah, Shakespeare did that a lot, I think, from my understanding. I'm not like super into like Shakespearean history, but I believe he would take like I think Romeo and Juliet's originally an Italian story that he basically said, okay, this takes place over several years. Let's just make this a week long. So it's just hits you in the feels a lot harder.
Yeah. No, no, it's true. Shakespeare pulled from other mythologies and stuff and folklore. Yeah, it's true.
Yeah. So
This entire film makes way more sense now.
you're like, Man, this Eggers guy's a fucking hack. He's just stealing stories,
No, I didn't
thinking
think
I
it was
won't
a hack.
notice.
I was like, okay, yeah, he's doing the Hamlet story, but he's doing it in this time frame. That's okay. That's fine. You know,
No, I'm
if
just picking.
If Disney could do it, then that's fine. Uh, but yeah, okay, that makes way more sense.
All right, so this one is a, a little bit. It's not 7 years long. So how's this one been doing, Chris?
You know, surprisingly, Groundhog Day is on They Shoot Zombies, and this is not.
The horror director did not shoot up on the They Shoot Zombies picture. That's interesting because
Yeah.
usually if they are just a horror director, they're just like, sure, just throw it on there.
No, no, exactly, right? Like even Carpenter has some stuff that's not really like directly horror that's on the list. But it is on They Shoot Pictures. In fact, this is the first year it got on They Shoot Pictures, and it joined at 17,944. So it's, it's building.
It's down there.
Yeah, it's building. Um,
And I'll do a little
yeah,
background if you'd like. So the big thing with this film that was
please.
different is Eggers had pretty much had, I wouldn't say free reign, but he had a pretty decent amount of reign when he made The Witch and he made The Lighthouse. He did not have much studio interference because he really wasn't necessarily tied to a studio for those films as much. A24, I think, produced and not just distributed The Lighthouse. I'd have to double check, but I believe that's who actually produced it. This was done by Focus, and this is the first time he had to work within a studio system. I think this film was made for like $70 million, so much higher budgets than the first two we watched.
Hmm.
And he was under a lot more constraint, and he
Mm.
didn't get to do quite as much as he wanted to do. One of the things I believe he wanted to do was actually have them speak in Old Norse, and the studio said, "Fuck you, no." So we're not going to do that. You were going to speak this in English because we're paying a lot of money for it.
Not that it
So
helped the box office much. I mean,
it may, according to Focus, and I mean, they don't report this, so you have to kind of just take their word for it. It did end up being profitable on VOD. It was very popular on video on demand,
okay.
which I do kind of believe because of how much they spent to advertise
Yeah,
Nosferatu. They put a
yeah,
fuck ton of money into that.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So he must have been profitable at some point. But yeah, so this is Chris, you haven't seen The Witch or The Lighthouse, correct?
No, I haven't seen anything else by Eggers, I don't think.
Okay. Yeah, so this is this honestly might be the best way to go just because I think one thing that I think from what I've seen led to some disappointment was the fact that there's definitely a little bit of studio interference. I don't think it's all that much because he still gets to do a lot of weird stuff in it. But it's like, yeah, this is $70 million, dude. This isn't The Witch. You don't get to do everything you want to do.
Yeah, I think The Witch is probably the one I would watch first or like next, I guess, because I like folk horror a lot. But I've heard The Lighthouse is really good, so I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
Maybe both. And there's only four movies total, right?
Yeah, Nosferatu was his fourth.
Okay. Yeah, it wouldn't be too hard to go complete on him, I guess.
Adam, you want to start us off and tell us about how you felt about Hamlet?
Yeah. I'm an Eggers fan. In that I've seen The Witch and The Lighthouse when they came out, and I liked them. I haven't seen either of them since they came out. They're not films I've revisited, but I watched them and I enjoyed them, and I was looking forward to what he did next. And I remember The Northman coming out, and I didn't go see it, and I hadn't seen it up until we watched it now, and I can't remember why exactly. Maybe it's because it wasn't like a straight horror, and I was like, meh, Viking actiony film. I could probably leave that for now. So it never really piqued my interest. And then obviously you picked it, and then Nosferatu was coming out, which I was excited for, which obviously I watched. So I'm now complete on my Eggers. And just to kind of chime in on something you mentioned earlier with the Nosferatu kind of marketing and stuff. It's crazy how I think this is going to be a massive box office hit, Nosferatu. Because even when I went to go to the theater to see this, and so we have two major cinema chains in Ireland. One is called Omniplex, and one is called Odeon, and Odeon are owned by AMC. Um, Omniplex is kind of the more premium chain because they have like recliner seats and really comfy, cushy seats and stuff like that. And then the Odeons are just all kind of very quite old, to be honest. So it's a lot of people tend to go to the Omniplex even though it's more expensive just because they like the comfort. But my nearest Omniplex is not showing Nosferatu at all. And I was like, what the fuck? Why are they not showing this movie? Um, so I went to go book a ticket in the Odeon, which is across town, and for the 3 days over this entire weekend, nearly every screening is sold out. And I'm like, the Odeon are fucking raking in the money because of Omniplex. I eventually did go see it in Omniplex in the next town over, which meant I had to drive like 45 minutes to go see it, but whatever. I didn't really have a choice because it was sold out in the other theater. So the fact that like normies from my towns are like going flocking to see Nosferatu, that's a big signaler to me that's it's gonna make a lot of money at the box office, which is cool.
Yeah,
Um,
and I just looked it up. It is so far raked in $63 million, but it has not released in a lot of international markets. It's barely got 5% as its international market yet. So
yeah, well, it
I
only
think
came
there'll
out
be
in
more
Ireland on the
reports.
first. This wasn't like we got it a week after you guys. It only came out on the
Yeah,
1st of January. Um,
yeah. Focus is probably going to push for some type of Oscar campaign, I would assume.
oh, for sure,
Yeah,
multiple. I can see Lily Rose Depp, Nicholas Holt, Eggers,
cinematography, I would say.
cinematography, costume design. I can see this being pushed for a ton of Oscars. But anyway, we're not here to talk about Nosferatu. I
But I
just
did
wanted
want
to
to
kind of
ask before we move on, did you
Mhm.
see the Bergman influence when you watched it?
Not particularly.
Not particularly. Okay, I was just curious. You're more the Bergman guy, so I was curious because he put Cries and Whispers as his big influence, one
Oh
of his
yeah, I
big
remember you
influences.
saying that. I guess yeah. Now that you mention it, there are specific scenes in Cries and Whispers that I can from one character that I can kind of see Lily Rose Depp's character. Now that you say that, yeah, actually that does make a lot of sense. But anyway, The Northman. I like this movie. I think it's good. Um, wasn't really what I expected. There's obviously it is still very actiony, but there's a lot of character work involved. I found it low key hilarious that Alexander Skarsgård plays Nicole Kidman's son. When they were husband and wife in Big Little Lies. I thought that was quite
Yeah.
funny. I didn't expect Ethan Hawke to show up in a Norse classical piece. He's like the most
Right.
American dude possible. There is no man more American than Ethan Hawke, in my
Yeah,
opinion.
exactly.
But he was pretty good in his short part of the runtime. Um, I think a lot of the cast are just very good. One thing I thought was very cool, which I thought was really funny when I read Chris's review of this that he wrote like 2 years ago in his defense. And he said, "I'm surprised at how nerdy Eggers is and how the historical accuracy stuff." And I thought that was really funny because obviously he hadn't seen The Witch and The Lighthouse, which is big on that. But there was one thing that surprised me. They play this game like halfway through the film. They play the game with the sticks and the ball.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
that's like really it's really similar to an old Celtic game that we still play in Ireland called hurling. And I looked into it and they do actually have kind of similar origins. So I just thought that was dope that he included something like that because it has no bearing on the plot like whatsoever, really. They could have found much easier ways to kind of make him more trustworthy to the clan or whatever than having to go through that. Um, but I thought it was just yeah, there's just so many cool little things in this film that I really like that. The visuals are excellent, the cast is excellent. The final sequence is badass. I just love some of the visuals as well with the like the way it kind of playfully intertwines the mythology with the actual grounded story. There's just like moments of kind of like magic and stuff that's really cool. But yeah, I had a great time watching it. It didn't feel like a 2 and a bit hour movie. It did kind of fly by for me. Like out of the three watch day, this is comfortably the best out of the three for me, at least anyway.
I think that's one thing I've noticed with Eggers in all four of his films is, I think he does an excellent job, this mythology stuff's happening, but he puts it in a very grounded world. Like we talk about, like especially in the Northman. I think the Northman has the least amount of like supernatural elements of his four, but it's more of an exploration of how these like myths sort of came about. When like without spoiling it, like fire of hell sort of thing, and they're on top of the mountain and things like that. Um, and I think he does that really well in Nosferatu, where it's a very grounded world where this like secret occult things happening. I think that's where the historical accuracy really shines, is because it makes it feel so grounded.
Yeah, we've spent time on previous podcasts kind of, or I don't know if this is mostly driven by me, but I feel like we've spoken about like directors that have like particular strengths. If they're not complete directors, they, maybe they have like one strength or two strengths. I it At least watching this one, um, it does feel like Eggers is a fairly complete filmmaker. Like, I mean, I'm not saying he was the one that shot it and everything, but it does seem like he's got a very good knack for storytelling on top of everything else. And he's a co-writer on this. He co-wrote this with Sean, which is an interesting partnership. Um, I don't know if y'all know that name at all. He's an Icelandic writer.
Yeah,
Uh,
he's a poetry writer, right?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And I think that there is like a there is sort of a tie to poetry in this. Like I think yeah, it makes sense that somebody like Sean would have been involved. Um, I I really this is not fair to her, and I need to get over this. But I don't like. I think Nicole Kidman is not a very good actor, and like,
That's
or
hot.
she's
It's a hot take.
Yeah, my heart like hurt a little bit.
Like I don't mind you
it,
saying she's
Just a
not
little
great
bit.
in this or whatever, but to say Nicole Kidman's not a good actor is kind of wild.
she's had a couple of really good roles. Like she's great in Eyes Wide Shut. I think that like there's even that one movie that's a TV show. Sorry, not a movie. The TV show, is it Pretty Little Liars or
Yeah,
something like that?
Big Little Lies, the one where she's
Big
married
Little
to
Lies.
this
She's
one
good in that,
superstar.
I think.
Yeah,
I
she's
would
great.
So
love if Nicole Kidman was in Pretty Little Liars. That would have been awesome.
She was
something about
a.
lying.
There's like six
Um,
people who listen to this podcast who got that joke, Adam. So good job.
Thank you.
but I don't think she's very good in this, at least. Let me just say that. I don't know if I'm ready to say she's not a great actor, but I like I don't think she's very good in this, and it kind of took me away from it a little bit because she has such a critical role on the second watch through. But like this is a good if you're thinking about like for somebody like me that has a aversion to like new movies coming out for even though it's probably for stupid reasons. I think Eggers is a he seems like somebody who's willing to like take some risks and like do something unique and tell a story that's visually quite interesting and has really good world building and he seems to be very strong with visuals and um so I don't know. I think yeah, I think like he's somebody that I'm interested in seeing more from.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he's a true modern author. Like
I
he's
think
very
there's
distinctive.
the one thing that'll hurt his career potentially is that he's very stuck to his vision, which is always like appreciative. But like he straight up said, if I ever had to go through what I did with the Northman again, I just won't make a movie with that big of a budget again. Like I just won't do it. So it's obviously somebody who's has a vision and their plan is to just stick with it as hard as they can, which is appreciative. I think that's a good thing. I think we need more things like this going into the cinema. And, obviously with something like Nosferatu, where he was given a lot of free reign again. And it's paying off for him from the looks of it, as Adam mentioned. It seems people are very excited to watch it.
Well, yeah, it's already made over its budget.
Yeah.
Obviously minus marketing, already. So like now, whether that's people going to see it because it's an Eggers film, or whether it's the fact that it's a well-known, despite being an early horror film, a lot of people know Nosferatu. Obviously,
Thanks, SpongeBob. Thank you, SpongeBob.
thank you, SpongeBob, for introducing Gen Z to Nosferatu. Um, but even like just some of like there was even some controversy like when Lily Rose Depp was cast. Like that got a lot of people talking because she's coming off a lot of hate for her TV show The Idol. There's obviously the whole Nepo baby pushback that's happening a lot in Hollywood now. People are kind of sick of seeing the same. People are sick of seeing actors whose parents' names are purple or blue on Wikipedia.
Yeah.
Um, there's a lot of, so like she was getting a lot of flack, which is ironic considering Bill Skarsgård is also in the film, and I didn't see him getting any flack. But whatever. Um,
Doesn't count for names you can barely say.
yeah, exactly. Um, but yeah, there was a lot of discourse when she was cast because I believe, if I remember correctly, Anya Taylor-Joy was supposed to play her role.
Correct. She got stuck because George Miller can't follow a schedule, which everyone
Yeah.
already knew.
So, going from Anya Taylor-Joy, who is a celebrated actress, to Lily Rose Depp, who would a lot of people would say is very unproven and is only there because of her surname. But she's proven people wrong now, because she's fantastic in Nosferatu. Um, but what I was going to say is, anyway, if Eggers does end up in a situation where he prefers to work on lower budgets, I also won't complain on that, because I think, despite me not seeing the first half of his filmography in a long, like, since they came out, The Lighthouse for me would probably still be my favorite film that he did, and that's literally just two dudes getting weird in the lighthouse for 90 minutes. Um, I can't imagine the budget for that was super high. $11 million. If he wants to make 11 million movies for the rest of his career, I'm also okay with that. I don't really need him to make big budget films if he doesn't want to.
I'm gonna guess he's gonna get his blank check film after Nosferatu, and he's gonna probably think of the biggest idea he can, and then just say, "Fuck it, if it fails, I'll just go back to making small budgets again."
And that like wouldn't be a shame. I would I would, yeah, I would agree. I think his blank check is probably coming, especially if Nosferatu continues on this trend of making money. I can assume the focus will let him do whatever he wants next. I could probably see him tackle maybe a bigger historical epic, maybe like a
The
two and a half
Knight
hour
is
war.
a script that's been around, so I think he wants to do like a medieval knight movie, from
That
my
does not
understanding.
surprise me.
Yeah.
Yeah, something with like big battles and stuff. I think that would be dope. And hopefully it's good and makes money and he can continue doing bigger scale stuff. But if he wants to go back to doing smaller scale stuff like The Witch and like The Lighthouse, I'm also cool with that, because he's clearly, like, he's such a talented guy. In terms of like working directors that have kind of come out in the last maybe like 10, 15 years, like, he's definitely top for me. I think he has such an amazing vision. He's a true watcher.
Yeah, and I think I do want to, with Northman, he obviously did two horror films before this, and this, while having some elements, is more of an action film. And his, like, I don't think it gets talked about enough how good the action is directed in this film. Like, I always think back to that scene that starts when they like invade the fort. Like, I don't know, was that third through the film where he like throws back the spear, and it's just like that one take through like the village and stuff like that. Really simple stuff, but it's done like so incredibly well.
Yeah, he's clearly just as comfortable on a bigger set with a bigger cast and like a bigger production than he is with obviously a much smaller condensed cast and production, like he was on The Witch, and obviously like The Lighthouse, which, as I said, is just two dudes getting weird for 90 minutes. But he's clearly very comfortable, between this and also between, like, there's a lot of scenes in Nosferatu as well that are kind of in wider spaces in the town and stuff that, it all looks great. So he's clearly he's clearly comfortable doing both. So I'm just happy for him to, as long as he keeps doing what he wants to do. Um, as like as Yeah, I'm just happy. Like, last thing I want to see now is, he gets linked with a fucking Marvel movie or something. Which I don't think would ever happen anyway. I don't think he's that kind of filmmaker. But
There was a
um,
weird rumor going around recently that he was attached to the Labyrinth remake, and I'm assuming it's a lie, like it's some bullshit, but that would be sad.
yeah, I can't imagine a world where he's going to be allowed to do what he wants with that. And also, my wife loves Labyrinth, so she would hate if that gets remade. So, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, The Northman was great. Like, it's obviously it's quite different. Like, Chris, I think you will have an interesting journey now going through his other films, because this is very different stylistically, to especially to the two he did before this. Um, Especially The Lighthouse. The Lighthouse would be very jarring in comparison.
Well,
Um,
the lighthouse is one I've actually wanted to see for a while because it's supposed to be very like extremely good just character study, right? Just between two guys.
yeah, like, it's literally it's like the most demented version of My Dinner with Andre.
Oh, wow, interesting. Okay.
Because it
It
is
was
just
just
two guys talking, being weird in a lighthouse with like this really it's like the style is like it, but it's like shot like a 20s expressionist film because it's like a really kind of condensed aspect ratio. It's in this high contrast black and white. It's so weird in terms of like the different visual ticks and it's just like you just have to experience it. You just like I what I say about the lighthouse can't really do it justice. It's just a film you have to experience. It's a fucking wild ride.
and it's really the movie like I mean, Pattinson was already getting a lot of praise for things like Good Time before this, but this was kind of like the moment everyone accepted, oh, Pattinson's a good actor.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. Because he had to keep up with Defoe, which isn't always especially one on one. Like that's you think of already having to act with like great actors, but when you have to do it one on one and you're the main character, that's kind of a tall order.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if I don't think I've seen enough of his movies to comment, but I've heard he's proven to be quite a good actor post Vampire, and so I am curious to see some of that.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't have a ton of final thoughts on the Northman because I just think it's like Adam said, it's a really good movie. It will be interesting. I agree with him though, Chris. I'm interested to see if you finally get to his other three because they're much more horror related. Um, all still pretty different though. I will say that. I think they're all pretty unique from one another.
Yeah, for sure.
I was just trying to formulate a question here. I don't know if it's even worth talking about too much, but there seems to be this new crop of directors coming out that are like a combination of like a Guillermo del Toro or um, the guy behind the Cornetto trilogy, Edgar Wright.
Hmm.
These people that really love to reference, like Quentin Tarantino, these people that love to reference old films. They seem to be like a hybrid of directors like that, and then also almost like a new Hollywood type of feel, or like a little bit more gritty. Like they like to kind of play in the mud a little bit.
Well,
He seems to be, I don't know, like there seems to be an interesting crop of young directors coming up, I guess, maybe just to say it plainly.
it's all kind of cyclical, really. Like New Hollywood, you could argue that was just guys who like that was the first crop of film school people.
Yeah,
So they like self-referential stuff started
true,
in
true,
the
true, true.
70s. Because they all kind of grew up watching noirs and stuff. That's why neo-noirs exist. And then obviously in the 90s, everything became kind of postmodern with Scream and Tarantino and stuff like that. And I guess this new crop of filmmakers I think you're always going to find filmmakers who are self-referential in terms of cinema,
Mm,
who will take influence um, while still being creative. Like you look at Nosferatu, for example, remaking a film from the 1920s, while still giving its own kind of spin on it and expanding on the mythology. But then you also look at stuff that's maybe less obvious, but still very very kind of self or very kind of referential to cinema, like something like The Substance. For example, it's a unique story, it's a unique take, but when you watch the film, there's so many visual cues to Stanley Kubrick and specifically The Shining.
mm,
Despite the fact that it's obviously a completely different film to The Shining, um, there's still so many visual cues towards Kubrick, where you can tell this filmmaker obviously very much enjoys Kubrick's work, but she's still creating her own unique story and unique vision, um, which I think is a bit more interesting than, the kind of, especially like the kind of, like, despite the fact that I love Scream, I find it more interesting if somebody can take influence from something without taking it wholesale.
mm-hmm.
Like for something like Tarantino, for example, the way he like actually like just copies and pastes scenes or
Right. Uh-huh.
dialogue,
Right.
um, as opposed to somebody who can make a unique film but still gives the audience something to kind of go, hey, that's a fun reference, or oh, that looks like this film, or that's a music cue from another film. Just kind of shows their love and knowledge of cinema without actually copy pasting. And I find that's what a lot of the kind of new good filmmakers are able to do, which is a good middle ground for me.
Yeah, and I think when we talk about postmodernism and self-referential, I think that's something we've kind of hit that plateau with when you look at like I think audiences are just more rejecting that now, especially when you look at like post like in-game MCU, where I think there's more jokes about that now than anything, that the self-referential has kind of gotten old. Um, so I think like you said, Adam, it's pretty cyclical in that sense.
Yeah.
It's just another reason why The Departed's not a very good movie. He's just copying and pasting from a great movie.
No, see,
That
that's different. That's like
that
taking
is
a
so
photocopy of
different.
something and saying, okay, I'm going to basically gonna, be the greatest painter ever over top of it. It just happened to use a trace.
I was just trying to get that jab in. We were too friendly this episode, Zach. I wanted to get one jab in of a movie you love. No, I don't have anything else to say on the Northman either. I mean, yeah, I'm interested to see more Eggers. I don't know. I will say I liked it less the second time through, so I probably won't watch the Northman again because I don't want to continue to like it less. I'm happy with how much I like it now, and I think it's a fun, like breezy watch that has two naked, jacked guys fighting in a volcano full of fire as the final battle. It's pretty fun.
That's one that's tough. You talk about liking it less. Like I technically did too, but I think it's because it's such a good like theater watch. Like I
Yeah, yeah.
adored this film in the theater because it has such good sound design and everything else. Which weird thing. This is like a small tangent. So the first time me or my girlfriend ever got COVID, she got it first, and we went to Chapel Hill down here to go see the Northman, and she felt like shit all day. And we didn't think anything about it. She hadn't been around anybody. She worked from home. And it turns out she had COVID and got it. We shared the same popcorn and everything else. And thankfully, I didn't get sick from that. But then the opposite happened when we went to go see Halloween Ends. I felt like shit and hadn't been around anybody with COVID that I was aware of. And then it came home and turned out I had COVID. And she didn't
Dang
get
it.
it from me. So
Are
I
you
don't know.
sure you didn't feel like shit just because you had watched Halloween Ends?
Oh, fuck you. No, I had a test.
Sorry, I actually don't hate Halloween Ends that much.
um, but yeah, so I think it's a great theater watch, but I think it's one of those movies that I think just plays better on the big screen and with
Yeah,
bigger sound.
I can totally see
Um,
that.
and you
But
get to see Bjork. Is that how you say it? God,
Bjork,
we've been
just
away from. Yeah,
just
we've been
Bjork.
so long from Vitrier. I like fucking forgot how to say it now.
Yeah, Bjork.
Yeah, she's great in this.
Bjork.
She wasn't even in costume. That's just how she showed up on set.
I genuinely wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
this
I'm pretty
was,
sure.
if I remember correctly, like her first movie since Dancer in the Dark, right? I believe this is the first one.
Yeah, I know she had a bad experience on Dancer in the Dark, but she's not really an actor,
Yeah.
like
Which you
that's
guys can listen to if you go to our old episodes. Please listen to those. They were that was a miserable experience, even though I like those movies. Make it worth it.
Yeah, speaking of Danish movies.
She's not an actress
Um,
anyway. She's obviously a singer, songwriter
Yeah.
yeah,
predominantly.
exactly.
So
She's just sort of like a visual artist, right? Like or just an artist kind of. She does a lot of different
yeah,
stuff. Um,
Which I
I
think says a lot because you're talking about the poet guy being here. So obviously they wanted like as many unusual artists as
I
possible, like
I don't
on
know the
set.
connection, but I think there's a connection between Sean and Björk because he
well,
also co-wrote Dancer in the Dark.
they're both Icelandic,
Oh,
and
okay.
only like 10 people live there. So
Well, that's true.
Somebody's got to get the job. It's like they picked them out of a hat, like you. Hollywood will use you forever.
it was their turn.
The Reykjavik film scene is three people.
Genuinely, yeah,
It's like they're gonna have like a little ceremony when like he's sick. It's like he has to pass it on to the next person. Like you now have the Hollywood signal. It is your time.
Yeah. Sorry, the Reykjavik Film Society, if you're listening. I'm sure you're powerful.
All right.
Chris, why don't you
Should
tell
we end
them?
it there?
Yeah, tell them what we're watching next month, Chris.
Well, I wanted to. I was laughing and cursing y'all because I did my letterbox stats and I've been embarrassed to publish it because it's all Fast and the Furious related.
Oh,
Like
same.
the director's James Wan and the actors are all like Vin Diesel and all this shit. I was like, God dang it.
Yeah, I think
Um,
the one who plays Vin Diesel's sister is like my fourth watched actor or something for the year.
oh, I was so mad at y'all when I mean, now let it go down in history. It was my idea, so I was mad at myself. But I was mad at the podcast that that was my number one for like everything. So, but I do think there are really good car movies made in history that are just like no matter if you like the campiness of Fast and the Furious or not, like you can like it if you like schlocky stuff. You can like it if you like more a tear-driven cinema. And so I want to do a trio of movies. I haven't checked the runtimes, but these all have to be very short. There's a chance that Fast Company by Cronenberg is a little bit longer, but Pit Stop by Jack Hill, uh, R.I.P. Jack Hill, absolute legend.
Yeah,
Uh,
Jack Hill probably didn't make a movie longer than 93 minutes in his
no, I'm
career.
sure.
That's
I'm
why he's
sure.
the fucking goat.
He gives Bergman a run for his money on short fucking
Uh,
movies.
yeah, yeah. Jack Hill is just a gem of a human, and he like I'll get into it more in the episode, but he just has such kind of a unknown influence on exploitation movies and genre movies. So I'll get into that a little bit as part of that. But Pit Stop is a really fun movie involving the most batshit crazy race imaginable, where they race at full speed in a figure eight. And if you can imagine where a figure eight crosses, they all cross like that and have to try to dodge each other. Um, I'm hoping that one of y'all can tell me this is a real thing because it seems like a really bad idea.
That seems
Um,
very American, so I can't comment.
No, we just go left in America.
yeah, this is like off brand NASCAR. Like, you know, like off Broadway. This is like whatever, off NASCAR. Fast Company by Cronenberg, which is a lesser viewed Cronenberg, but one that I think I actually like a lot. And I like more. I've seen it twice already. I'll watch it again for this. And then a movie that's just pure raw fun, Death Race 2000, and with a young Sylvester Stallone, but like basically just a stack cast. So can't wait. So Pit Stop by Jack Hill, Fast Company by Cronenberg, and Death Race 2000 by I think his name is Paul Bartel, but Bartel is the director's last name. But
It's Roger Corman. It's fine. You can just say it.
yeah, exactly, exactly. Yeah, Paul Bartel. But it has yeah, David Carradine. Anyways, have y'all seen Death Race 2000 before?
I have when I was a kid. I've seen the remake quite a few times.
These are all
Oh
first
shit,
time watches for me.
there's a Statham remake, right?
Yeah, Paul, the real Paul Anderson made that one.
Paul W.S. Anderson.
Paul W. Too funny.
All right, guys, first of the year. I think we did it.
We did it,
Yeah,
dudes. We're back.
awesome. We're back, baby.
We're
Thanks, y'all.
back,
This is a
baby.
lot of fun. Zach, thanks for recommending these. These are three movies I definitely would have never watched, and I'm glad to have seen them all.
Completely agreed.
Mhm.
Right, we'll wrap it up from there. Listeners, we'll be back in February sometime. We'll keep you posted. For now, slán go fáil.
Thank you for listening. To hear more shows from the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network, please select the link in the description.
I am Adam Lundy, the host of the Radiance Films podcast, a show that is dedicated to all things Radiance Films. Join me every month as myself and some varied and interesting guests sit down to discuss the latest releases and announcements from Radiance Films, now part of Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.
If you're looking for more horror outside of the mainstream, look no further than Unsung Horrors, a podcast about underseen horror movies. I'm Lance.
And I'm Erica. Every other week, we'll cover a horror movie with fewer than 1,000 views on Letterboxd. We'll even give you double feature recommendations to pair with the movies we discuss.
From gothic to shot on video, from slashers to comedies, from giallo to J-horror. We'll cover all the subgenres, so join us as we unearth these hidden gems of horror.
Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, all at Unsung Horrors, available wherever you listen to podcasts. And part of the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.